bit better, Margo. Scoot up a bit. Or have me scoot back. Is that good? You like that?
Sure.
I do.
As long as I'm
I
not
like
taller,
it.
I'm not taller than you.
Hold on.
I'll make him sit up.
There we go. I think that's good. I just think that you're a little bit more backlit. I think it's just the dynamics of our windows and everything. I don't think that that's going to be
all
able
right.
to change. If
I'm
you're
happy.
good with it, I'm good with it.
You're the star.
We're about to head to the bars, to watch the Jets and the Bills.
The bars? How many bars are we going?
We're going to 2. It's not that bad.
No, it's not. For a Monday.
Yesterday, we only went to 1.
Okay.
We went to the New Orleans Saints bar.
Yes, that was fun.
And that was a cool experience. But
Very cool.
that's what we do when the 49ers don't play, at least on the weekend. They play Sunday. You're going to the game. They're playing the Chiefs. It's Brock Purdy against Patrick Mahomes. I understand that you semi-dislike the Chiefs.
I feel like everybody dislikes the Chiefs at this point. They were actually voted the most disliked team recently in the NFL, beating out the Cowboys.
I saw a crazy stat, and I think we were talking about this with someone yesterday, but the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have the most interceptions called back by penalty, like nullified by penalty by 2x over the last several years. So I think it feeds a lot of the conspiracy theories, but whatever. We're not going to get into those. I think the bottom line is that from a psychological perspective, the 49ers, they lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54 before we met, 2019 season.
Yep.
They lost to the Chiefs in the last Super Bowl, 58. Mm-hmm. We knew each other then. And then they lost to the Chiefs in the 2022 regular season. So this is a team that you just keep on losing to. If you want to climb Everest, if you want to get to the very top, eventually you got to beat them, and I don't think you want to wait till the Super Bowl to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Sure.
So what a good opportunity. It's like a dress rehearsal, right? This is not the real thing. It's not the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
I think it's still really important.
It's a home game for the Niners, so in some sense, beating them, when they come into our house is, it means more.
Yes. So that's what's at stake this weekend. I'm sure you're going with my parents. I think that could be fun. We'll hang out before the game. We'll hang out after the game. Who's going to the game here? Put into the comment section. If you guys are going, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about the game coming up, let us know as well. This is going to be a fun week. We might even host a fan meetup on Saturday because the game is big enough. If we decide to do that, then Margo here will help organize. As you can see, this is the first time I think we've ever done a live where you're in San Francisco. And as people can see, I'm not going to twist it right now, but before we sign off, I'll show you guys the view and I'll show you Alcatraz. How was Fleet Week?
It's awesome.
We had the Blue Angels flying above. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's this surge of patriotism that you feel when the Blue Angels fly right over you and you can see U.S. Navy on the bottom of the plane. You're like, this is awesome.
You can actually read the lettering. They were so close at one of these spots that we were at. Unfortunately, they had to cancel on Saturday, but you could see why, because they do such crazy stuff. They're flying. The wings are almost touching.
Yeah.
So if there's a little bit of fog and you can't see, well, we wouldn't want to see those guys crash because the coolest thing, we saw the sonic boom. What do they call it? The blur? So,
I don't know. It's the sonic. I thought it was just a sonic
you know what
boom.
I'm talking about, right? The sonic boom is the sound, but there's also, you see a little bit of blur when a plane hits the speed of sound. There is a split second where the front of the plane is at the speed of sound and the back of the plane hasn't yet caught up.
It's catching up, yeah.
So it creates a little blur. And they hit the speed of sound in front of us when we're watching from the rooftop here in San Francisco, and I saw the blur and I freaked out.
You really did.
It was really cool. So anyway, questions, please put them in. We're going to go to the Jets bar today, which is also the New York Giants. It's like the New York bar. It's called Aces, and the Yankees happen to be playing too against Cleveland.
Oh.
So I know you're a Cleveland
go
fan.
Cleveland.
Yeah. So we're going to go check out that bar really quickly, but then the Buffalo Bills bar, North Star up in North Beach, is awesome. Working on something for the San Francisco Standard on some of these team bars. And probably going to follow it up with some Sam's tonight, which is obviously a 49ers burger spot, not really a bar.
I am curious to know, have there ever been any tables lit on fire outside of the Bills bar in excessive celebration?
I tried to convince her to come to Buffalo with me, and she said, no, this is just too much. I can't do it. I'm going.
It was also in the winter.
Yeah, it's coming up on December 1st. I don't think that you try to get your wife to say yes to stuff. One thing that's hard for her to say yes to is Let's go to Buffalo in the winter and watch guys that are shirtless jump on tables, and the tables may or may not be on fire.
I mean, I can watch that from the comfort of my own couch on Twitter, X.
On David Lombardi's YouTube channel.
Yes, I can.
Because I'm going to go, and if there are any Buffalo fans randomly watching here, I am going to try to find the tailgates where these guys are jumping on tables. And I've heard...
Just look for the smoke.
Yes, yeah, you could look for the smoke. But I've also heard that the Bills are not very happy about this happening in their own parking lot for obvious insurance reasons.
Oh, gosh, I'm sure.
So these hardcore tailgates are like, you have to walk from the stadium.
You know, somebody should dress up as Jake from State Farm for the Bills tailgates and just walk around and like survey.
That or the Mayhem guy.
Or the Mayhem guy, yeah, probably the Mayhem guy.
Is Mayhem Allstate and Jake from State Farm is, I think Mayhem's Allstate.
Is Mayhem, yeah.
Insurance companies do commercials memorably. I remember, like,
well,
we
so many
know.
that market to NFL audiences too.
Yes.
I mean, if you're watching at home, like, I feel like all you see is like State Farm, Allstate, Progressive, Geico, constantly.
Anyway, invite's still there. We have a Southwest Companion Pass in case you want to join on the flight to Buffalo December 1st. I don't think she's going to make it, but we're going to check it out. Speaking of that, we're going to see Buffalo play tonight against the Jets. That game is for first place in the AFC East. And Margot, she's getting into this NFL stuff. She asked me about point differential last night, and she started delving into point differential, and I told her, this is the best way to tell if a team is good or not. Because right now, what you said was like the whole league was like 2-3 and 3-2, right? That was your point, that everybody was...
Right, like it seems like there's not, like, I mean, there aren't a ton of teams that are like 4-1 or like, you know, undefeated. I mean, it seems like, you know, everybody's kind of collected in this like mid-range.
There hadn't been ample time for teams to really separate themselves record-wise, but there has been when it comes to point differential. So, for example, the 49ers, since that's what most people care about, their point differential is plus 32, which means if you combine every single game that the 49ers have played, they have scored 32 more points than their opponents. 32. So they played 6 games plus 32. You divide 32 by 6, that's about 5 points, 5 something. They've won their games by an average of 5 points. Yeah. The rest of their division is all in the negatives. Seattle's -4. Arizona's -30. The Rams are -45. Yeah. So even though Seattle has the same record, 3-3 as the 49ers, their negative point differential, the 49ers are positive, 36 points better.
Right.
And you saw on the field, just like everybody else, the 49ers were better than the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So it all makes sense. So tonight we get to see the Bills, who are plus 36.
Well, and that's what I like looking at the point differential. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, point differential.
The point differential, like, compared to the other divisions. Because you, like, kind of know how you stack up in your own division of 4 teams. But if you're, like, a girly just getting into all the analytics and figuring out, like, okay, well, who really is better, you know, comparing an NFC team to some random AFC team that you might not match up against, you can look at that and kind of have a better lay of the land, holistically speaking.
Perfect. So typically, I think in the average division, you'll probably see 2 teams with a positive point differential and 2 teams with a negative point differential. You'll have 2 good teams and 2 bad teams.
Is that like standard season to season every year?
That's what you would expect over the long run, because you would think that in a salary capped league where everybody's competing at the highest level, you'd expect it to shake out that way. But you'll get an aberration. You'll get an outlier. This year in
the NFC North.
There you go. The NFC North has 4 teams.
We talked about this last night.
With positive point differentials, all of which are better than the 49ers. The worst team in the North.
Well, they're better than like every
other division. But the 49ers are known as like a powerhouse, and they're not playing that great yet. But plus 32 is not bad. The worst team in the North right now, Green Bay's at plus 41.
That's not Green Bay, it's the Bears.
No, they're the worst record, but they have plus 47. See?
Oh,
and Green Bay's plus 41. Minnesota's plus 63. Detroit is plus 60. How would you feel if the 49ers played the Lions in the NFC Championship game, but in Detroit this time, as somebody who was at the game?
Oh my gosh.
Last year at Levi's.
I don't know. I don't feel like I can quite like anticipate what my feelings would be there.
What were your feelings as that game happened last year?
Probably a lot of what everyone else experienced: excitement, sorrow, nausea. felt like I wanted to
You-
be sick at halftime.
You felt a little ill at halftime.
I think we all did. It was kind of like, oh God, it's not going to end like this, surely. It can't end like this.
Well, the one thing that I thought at halftime was this is crazy that it's 24-7 because we had done this whole like historical feature. We talked about it
Oh,
today.
yeah, Kezar Stadium.
Yeah,
last
in
year.
1955, the Lions were down 24-7 to the 49ers at halftime, and then the Lions came back
Yeah.
because the 49ers got cocky too early. They were literally, I think, taunting the Lions on the way back out. I think it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's back with the Eagles now, probably where this type of player belongs, with the head coach that taunts his own fans. That happened yesterday. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson was taunting the 49ers at halftime. It was like history repeating itself, but in the opposite way. Then they caught up and they won 34, same score, 34-31.
Which is really weird.
Insane, yeah. So...
it's part of the NFL script.
Yeah, like that was a really long arc to come back and develop, but they ended up winning that, and boy, it was still to this day one of the craziest games that I've covered. That being said, it's for 49ers fans, it must be tragic that we don't talk about that because they lost 2 weeks later. Imagine if they had won the Super Bowl. That NFC Championship game is still something people talk about now.
It would be legend, yeah.
So this is
is
my full circle payoff. This was like the long range payoff. The reason we don't talk about the NFC Championship game is because of the Chiefs, who are playing the 49ers this weekend.
Okay.
Well, so you were at the NFC Championship game where the Niners won, and now you're going to be at the Chiefs-Niners game, where they're hoping to kind of undo the hex, so to speak.
Right, but like how much of it is voodoo, like?
I don't know.
In your head.
Sounds like you're more rational than I am, but I'm just.
I don't know. I mean, like we all have like a lucky pair of socks or something we wear if things go your way, right?
Yeah. What have you thought this year, by the way, of Brock Purdy running around? Just like from the casual observer's point of view, it seems like he's scrambling a lot more. Has he been fun to watch?
Yeah, he's been fun to watch because I think, and I mean, as like having watched him, this is my 3rd year watching him now?
Yeah, 2022, 2023,
3rd year watching
2024.
him, he seems a lot more confident in the pocket, and you watch all of these, defensive huge guys trying to get at him, and he just navigates it so well. Like he's just calm, cool, collected, and I mean, he finds a guy. So it's very entertaining.
Yeah, it really is.
I loved his bids where he runs to get the first down too. I think we're seeing a little bit more of that too.
And maybe we've talked about this before, but there was the other game where he did run for the first down. He was fast enough, but the guy had a chance at a tackle, and I think he thought he would go down a lot easier.
Yeah.
But he kind of bounced off, and they call him I call him Quadzilla.
Does Brock know you call him?
Maybe, but he knows they call him Baby Bosa legs because Bosa's got massive legs too. So anyway, he's got such lower body strength that it's hard to just arm tackle him. You actually have to be in position.
Makes him a little more explosive. And
good
on the run.
It's in a league where there's a lot of big, strong players. Quarterbacks typically are a little bit. They're not like kickers, but they're physically weaker. So we have the quarterback that you're comparing to Nick Bosa with leg strength. I think that makes a difference. I think that catches opponents by surprise. And I think that they had it last year against the Chiefs, but Purdy is doing it more confidently now.
And some of that just maybe he's more confident in the team and the guys around him too. Like he's had.
This year it seems like Brock would actually prefer to run in short yardage situations rather than take the check down pass. That was a comment right now. Yeah. So, and he doesn't have Christian this year. He doesn't have McCaffrey. So McCaffrey's like a safety blanket to throw to.
Sure, but he's got Mason and some of these other rookies. Brandon's finally kind of like caught up and got with the program, thankfully. Yeah,
Ayuk is starting to play well. I thought he was really good the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Kittle came through.
That was insane. There was 2 plays in the red zone last week to Kittle that were like surgical precision.
Textbook.
I ran
on the corner.
Well, the Pythagorean theorem, or we could play it in a second. Let's find
Was it the 33-yard thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right here. We're watching the Kittle
the
touchdown from all 22. Brad posted it at SF9. You know Brad, cool guy. So
and like watching it on the screen too, I was like, there's no way his feet were down. like at home watching it, and it just looks like Kittle totally doesn't get that second foot down before he goes out of bounds. But
Let's pause it. There they are.
he did, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
they're
they
both
paused it,
up.
and it was right inside the weight. It was.
You know how risky
Good
this
looking.
is? Like, and I'm sure those of you watching, you know what play we're talking about. It was the Kittle pylon play. If Purdy throws this ball a yard, maybe even 2 feet further inside, if he misses,
It's a pick.
this guy's not diving. It's not only a pick, it's a pick six.
Sure.
Because this guy has that much field to beat a bunch. It's the kick six all over again.
Yeah.
Because it's a fast guy, and he would be being chased by these guys. He'd be being chased by the
Sure, but
offensive
he was
linemen.
already stretched out so long, like there was no way that defender was going to land on his feet.
No, I get it, but if
He
I'm,
was
I'm saying
laterally parallel to the ground.
I'm saying if that throw is bad, if that
Yeah,
throw is not
yeah,
accurate,
yeah.
or if it doesn't have enough velocity, then what he does is like, well, if it's just
Sure.
a duck floating out there, he can pick it off and run the other way.
Yeah.
So it's about location from Purdy's throw,
What's the timing?
but also look at the velocity right here.
It's throwing
That
the
gets
ball
out there quick.
where your guy is going to be, not where he's at, but where he's going.
It's what Wayne Gretzky always said. I don't skate to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck is going to be. You're good. You like hockey because in Nashville they actually have a hockey team that's
There's
more
noth-
competent than the football team.
Okay, we're not going to get into the Tennessee Titans because they're just kind of sadly mediocre year over year. And,
Yeah.
you know,
It's too
it's
bad.
always a building year.
Perpetually building. It's
yeah.
like the cathedral in Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia. It's
Oh my
never
gosh,
finished.
it's never finished, yeah.
It is building it.
Essentially.
Except it's never beautiful with the Titans, so they're not at that level
The
yet.
Titans make like a wild card, you know, playoff appearance, I think, once every 3 or 4 years to kind of like, you know, keep the fan base alive. Like, are you still there? You know, and we are. But yeah, redneck hockey with the Preds is just so fun.
Somebody's asking how the Predators are looking this year, and I don't know if either of us has an actual answer.
I don't have an actual answer to that. I mean, hockey's just starting, isn't it?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
started. You know where they started the season? Prague. They had.
That's right.
The NHL likes starting in Prague. They have a doubleheader.
Weren't they playing the Sharks? Weren't they playing
That
the
was
San Jose Sharks?
1 or 2 years ago. Nashville, the Preds played the Sharks
Yeah,
in,
it was
in
kind
Prague.
of like the stars aligning. of
This year it was
teams
two
and
two other
places.
teams,
Yeah.
but they still do it out there. And
Someone asked, like, Margot, tell me you're a Vols fan. And so I went to Auburn, and they will always be in my number one SEC school. However, all of my cousins are sports fanatics, and they, majority of them went to University of Tennessee. So it's always fun to, like, root for Tennessee. They're in the SEC East, and Auburn's in the West. And we play a lot of the same rivals. So I feel like Auburn and UT bond by common enemies, i.e. Alabama, Georgia. But yeah.
Saturday will be fun. Again, if we have the fan meetup, we'll let you know. So stay tuned for that. I'll put it on the video.
That's the Alabama Tennessee game.
It's Alabama, Tennessee at
Yeah,
12:30,
and Alabama's
right?
playing
And
in
then
Knoxville.
Georgia, Texas
Georgia,
at
Texas.
4:30.
Georgia's number 5. Texas is number 1.
So we'll schedule our
Which
fan
is weird
meetup.
that that's an SEC game, but you know, Texas.
I mean,
has decided
it's
to
even more
SEC.
weird that Stanford is an ACC and Cal Miami was the ACC. Like it's
Yeah.
all up on its head now at this point. It's just crazy.
Walk out with the boom.
Margot should walk out with the boom box. Are you strong enough, Flex?
I don't know.
Flex
I mean,
for
that
us.
boom box is probably bigger
Yeah.
than I am.
It's pretty heavy. There's one at
What is
Trent
it, like
Williams'
60
locker.
pounds?
There's no way it's that heavy. They're called bump boxes.
Yeah.
I'll test it out for you because Trent has it by his locker. They keep it by Trent's locker.
That sounds like completely appropriate.
Because he has 2 lockers. At one point last year, he had 3.
Why
but,
does he
but,
have 3 lockers?
But some practice squad guy came and they needed an extra locker. So he's like, okay, fine, he can have that one. One of them says Williams
Great.
71 on it. The other one says Silverback 71.
Someone
on
said
it.
it's 30 pounds. Okay, I could do 30 pounds.
30,
That's fine.
30 is good. I think you're pretty strong. Margot rides horses, so
Yeah.
you have to. You can't be like frail and weak, or you get
No,
tossed
but it's
off.
all like legs and core. I mean,
So it's not carrying a boombox.
sure, it's
Yeah.
not carrying a boombox, but you know, put me on a 1,500-pound 4-legged animal at a gallop, and I'm.
What do you
Yeah.
think of the whole boombox thing? No other team does it. It makes it seem a little bit more like a college team. I feel that they have like a little pregame
I mean,
ritual.
anything ritualistic that's like fun that players can bond over. I mean, that's the fun of the game.
Yeah, that's
You know.
and that's what they're trying to do in the locker room. They're trying to It's a hard thing. It's like fitting a square peg into a round hole when you have a ton of high-priced players and they've been in the league forever, so they could be a little more jaded, but you still want to maintain a young, youthful vibe.
Well, I think
So
like the reality is you probably have, you know, a handful of guys who are like kind of carry that torch of like, you know, the fun part of the culture. Like I think of Kittle, you know, I mean, without a doubt, like you listen to, you're watching a 49ers game and every analyst, every game, you know, Kittle makes a play. They say verbatim, nobody is having more fun in football than George Kittle. And it's like, yeah, obviously.
yeah, that's what he says. He gets himself into this headspace where he's a maniac. Like he's literally takes. I think I've showed you the video. He slams his head into the wall, which I don't think is good.
Well, whatever gets you going. I mean,
but,
like,
but so he's in this. He calls it a dark place, but his dark place is still really happy. He just has to enter this place of
well, it's
violence.
just like
though,
it's his
so
zone.
he enters his
Everybody's zone is different.
He enters his zone.
You know, some people need to do like the zen and the calm, and some people need to like get worked up about it, and you know.
When I could only speak for myself when I go swimming in the bay down there. My zone, I just have to get in the water. There's a lot, like, you can only do so much mental preparation, but like getting into like the ice cold water is always going to be shocking, and it's always going to be, your body enters like this fight or flight.
Yeah.
So you have to just get in there and do it. But I think these football players, they got to get in there sooner, because if you're not ready to go that first play, that could be the play where you suffer a career-ending injury. If you're not fully invested into you're sitting duck. And the other guys are. If you're not on, the other guys are. So it's really interesting how they get their minds ready for these games. All right, a few more minutes, guys. We're gonna try to go 25 to 30 here. We're 21 in, so why don't we hear some questions before we cross the finish line? Then I'll show you guys the view before we're done. It's a nice one where we're at right now.
Well, it was burned off too.
It's burned off a part of the bay, but hopefully it stays off for the next few minutes. The biggest catalyst for the game is if the Chiefs against the Chiefs is if the refs call a fair game. That's the case every week, though. You don't want calls to blatantly go against you. Any update on Malik Mustafa? Low ankle sprain, wasn't out of practice today, but was working off on the side. I'd expect him to be ready. Do I think that Feliciano will have his practice window open this week? That's a good question. He tweeted today that he's ready to go, but they didn't open it today. They opened Ricky Pearsall's practice window today.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
So yeah, that is. I mean, it's a miracle. Who's your favorite current 49er, Margot? You have a favorite player?
Jawan Jennings is my favorite.
Jawan. They're gonna think you're a Tennessee fan. Yeah.
I mean,
well,
gotta rep the home state. Like,
tell them about.
Here's the thing. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me get this off my chest.
Sure.
Tennessee has been terrible for forever, and they're just kind of one of those teams that like they've been the butt end of so many jokes in the SSE for probably 10 or 12 years now. And so it's really fun to kind of be in this alternate reality that is like real life where they're really good.
I thought Vanderbilt was the butt of all the SEC jokes.
Vanderbilt is the butt of
until they carried the goalpost into the water.
They got a police escort down to Broadway to toss the goalpost into the river. So
when they beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and beat somebody else, like South Carolina, right, the next week. So now they're winning games. Like,
right. I mean, like, Saban exiting from Alabama has been kind of, like, shaken up all of the SEC. But, you know, Jawan kind of reminds me of, like, a Kittle in the way that, like, he's just super reliable. He's dependable. He definitely, like, seems like he has a lot of fun. And, like, briefly meeting him over the summer at the camp, he runs a football camp for his high school, out of his high school in the summer at Blackman, which is in Murfreesboro. Yeah. Which is super cool. I mean, like, seeing, you know, a pro NFL football player go back to your community and, like, breathe some life into it and be invested, you know, kind of where he came from is always really neat. So, yeah, Jawan Jennings is my favorite player right now.
And you basically went exactly where I wanted you to go with it. Talk about the football camp in a little bit. And he was just, he met you for the first time. He's one of those guys is like, it feels like you've known him for a long time, you know?
He's just a dude.
Yeah,
he's a real dude. And, you know,
Well, and you went to the Rams game, which unfortunately for the 49ers didn't end up good. But for Jawan Jennings, that was his breakout game. He's been around for a while now. He's always done good stuff in that stadium.
So that's the thing. I think Jawan is getting a lot of the limelight that he deserves this season. I think he's always kind of been in the back, like making some really important plays, but it seems like he's kind of enjoying a little bit more spotlight this year.
Yeah,
versus previous
and
seasons.
he absolutely deserves it because he's put up so much. Just he's such a hard worker away from the ball. Even if he's not getting the ball, he's blocking
Sure.
so well.
And he's versatile. He kind of reminds me of Kittle in that way.
Yeah, a lot of people said, why didn't he play tight end? Well, because he could block. And the truth is that the 49ers have this amorphous setup offensively where Kittle is playing tight end, receiver, even running back occasionally. McCaffrey's doing both. Jennings is already doing both. He doesn't have to have his title changed to tight end.
Right, he literally threw and
Yeah, he's throwing.
touchdown.
He was at Blackman in Murfreesboro. He was a quarterback, and he had some crazy games where he led them back from like a 30-point deficit.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let them lose. Somebody asked what you thought of Kittle and Juice's touchdown celebration.
Oh, I love it. I mean, like every time you see like the guys like run up to the wives, as a fellow wife, you're like,
Fellow wife.
no, but like you
I get
empathize
it, I
with
get
him a
it.
little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
like your husband's doing the NFL thing, or like his schedule is at least commandeered by it, and it's a lot of travel and
A lot of
time away,
hours.
and
A
it's
lot of hours.
and
Like
it's awesome.
on an irregular or not irregular, but on lopsided schedule. So like the fall moving into the winter and February, if you're the 49ers and you play in the championship or the Super Bowl every year,
Yeah.
is just hogs a lot of time.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And then-
it's a full-time job.
Then Kyle Shanahan always says, hopefully you can't relate too much to this, but he always says, I come home, my family's excited for 2 days, and then they want to kick me out because they're like, why are you around so much? You're getting annoying. Leave. So I just go back to my office and start drawing up plays again.
Oh my god.
So anyway, there's the whole like reacclimatization period after the season ends.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
know?
like your life looks really different in March and like April versus October, November, and in some sense too, part of it is you don't know necessarily where you're going to be, when you're going to be until the schedule comes out in May. So you're going to have an away game in Miami, but you don't know if it's going to be in September, if it's going to be in December. So.
We got our first advertisement. I'm going to read this one right here. And we kind of settled on things that what we were comfortable with advertising, so we're never going to push something that we didn't feel would be good. You kind of helped me go through this. But this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to at work, in social settings, and around our family. Therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask, because masks should be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. Whether or not you've been in therapy personally, talk about whether or not you've been in. Sorry. If you're thinking of giving or starting therapy, please give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Lombardi Lounge. I'm glad that you're here, Lombardi Lounge. Today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Lombardi Lounge. Thanks to BetterHelp, one of the first sponsors of the show. Anyway, thanks to you too for coming aboard.
Sure. There was a really great question that popped in. Someone said, Ricky Pearsall is coming back in. Like, who do you think goes out? Like, who comes out if Ricky goes in? Which player?
That's a good question. I don't think it's likely he's activated this week. I believe also
Regardless
that
of timing, though.
something here, let's look at the depth chart because it's a little bit more of a complicated answer. I know people just want the one-for-one answer, but you look at the receiving room and they've got 3 wide receiver positions on the front line. That's the X, they call it the X. That's Brandon Ayuk. The F is Jawan Jennings. The Z is Deebo Samuel. When Deebo was out, Jawan really proved his worth by sliding into the Z for Deebo Samuel, and that's when he had the huge game, right? Conley is the backup X. Ronnie Bell has, again, that was somebody they just plugged in for the game against the Rams. He dropped those passes. That was unfortunate. And I think Jacob Cowing will probably be like a specialty weapon that may not even firmly apply to any of those spots. So anyway, you bring Pearsall into this group of 6. Conley, I would assume, is going to be fully healthy by then, so we could take him off the injury shading. Is anybody else going to be hurt? That's possible. If not, he probably takes Ronnie Bell's spot. That's what I would say out of that 6. Now, it's complicated because then you say, okay, where does he slot in? Does he slot into Ayuk's position? Does he slot into Samuel's position or Jennings' position as far as the frontline positions?
Sure.
And I think that the reason they really liked Ricky Pearsall was because he was so versatile. They're
well, the Niners love those players.
Yes, so he could. I think they think that he could play some slot, but he has enough speed to play the X, which is the number 1 spot outside.
Got it.
Otherwise, you don't draft him in the first round.
You know, you just went like a whole depth of like analysis that I've never heard of, like the X and the Z's and the Y's and the
X.
W's.
Y is a tight end, but the X and the Z are receivers. F is a receiver.
I'm gonna take a part of the studio back home and like make it a whiteboard surface, and you can like draw everything out for me.
We'll diagram plays on the whiteboard. If you guys think that's a good idea, we could actually have something in the background in one of these videos. Speaking of the background of this, anyway, thank you. I'm going to show people I'll flip this around, get people a nice view outside.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody. Let's flip this around this way. We are not on camera anymore. And just head out to the window. You can keep on talking, Margot. They still hear you with your mic.
Hello.
But there we go. There's Alcatraz.
I've always thought it's funny people want a really good view of the prison. I've just never really understood
All right,
that.
well, if they want a good view of the prison, we're going to zoom in on it. There it is.
They had a great audio tour circa 2010.
And this is where the Blue Angels flew yesterday. It was a great view. We got to see everything. There's the Golden Gate Bridge. You can see the fog is starting to roll in.
The fog is always rolling in San Francisco.
There she is.
Hello.
And we're going to go over here. One more shot of Alcatraz and out to downtown. All right. We'll see you guys later. Take care.
Bye.